Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Let's turn off other distractions and get settled in and talk about consciousness and assumptions. Yesterday, I read from Neville Goddard's The Power of Awareness, the power of your word, I am, and everything that you say after I am, and everything that you expect becomes your life. It becomes your reality. You're co-creating your life with infinite intelligence, with divine energy, with the energy that is available, that is always flowing to and through you. Your own consciousness, your own conscious awareness, your own belief in what's going on around you is what creates your physical reality, your experiences. And so today I want to read to you chapter 3, The Power of Assumption. This was something that I studied with Bob Proctor, and this is such a powerful chapter. I want you to really pay attention. Neville Goddard says, man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. I'm going to say that again. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, a human being's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Sometimes we look around and we believe that the causes, the conditions, the circumstances outside of us are creating our reality, are causing us to feel sad or angry, or to do something, or to make us feel angry. That's Neville Goddard says that's the main delusion. The only thing that's creating your reality is your own state of consciousness. He says, all that befalls a man, all that is done by him, all that comes from him happens as a result of his state of consciousness. A man's consciousness is all that he thinks and desires and loves, all that he believes is true and consents to. That is why a change of consciousness is necessary before you can change your outer world. Rain falls as a result of a change in the temperature in the higher regions of the atmosphere. So, in like manner, a change of circumstance happens as a result of a change in your state of consciousness. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. To be transformed, the whole basis of your thoughts must change. But your thoughts cannot change unless you have new ideas, for you think from your ideas. All transformation begins with an intense burning desire to be transformed. The first step in the renewing of the mind is desire. You must want to be different before you can begin to change yourself. What is it that you would have show up in your life? What would you prefer the circumstances to be? What kind of conditions do you want to live in? Have you ever really thought about what you really want? This takes practice. This takes some devoted attention to not looking around outside of you and thinking that this is the way it is, this is all there is, this is how it has to be. But what if you could wave a magic wand and change something? your love life, your bank account, the work that you do, the place that you live. Do you ever allow yourself to just think about what you would have be different, not focusing on what is that you don't like, but what you want instead? You know, when people say, I don't really know what I want, Bob Proctor would say, I don't believe that. I think you know what you really want. You're just not allowing yourself to believe that it's possible for you. You don't allow yourself to think that way because you're so focused on living the same day, the same energy over and over and over. And Neville Goddard tells us in order for something to change on the outside, you must change your thinking first. The first step is renewing your mind. It's having a deep desire for something to be different. And you must want to be different before you can change. The world outside you is not going to change unless and until you change your conscious awareness. You change you. You change your thinking patterns. And for most people, thinking patterns are on repeat, they're habitual. We just keep going around and around thinking the same thoughts and creating the same circumstances. Bob Proctor and Neville Goddard tell us first, you decide what you want, you have a deep desire, you change your thoughts about what's possible, you change your perspective that, yes, it is meant for you. You get into the state of what it would be like to be that, to have your desire. If everything showed up that you truly desired, how would you be feeling? What would you be thinking about? Don't worry about how to get there. Think of the end result. How happy you would be, how grateful you would be, how wealthy you would be, how richly blessed in every area. There would be no complaining, there would be no judging, there would be no I wish, I want. It would be living as if you're already there in deep, profound gratitude, healthy, happy, joyful, doing purposeful work, looking for ways that you could help other people. So Neville Goddard says, you must make your future dream a present fact. You do this by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. By desiring to be other than what you are, you can create an ideal of the person you want to be and assume that you are already that person. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. So Bob Proctor would say that sentence over and over and over again. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. And he would ask, what is the most important word in that sentence? And there would be a full seminar room of hundreds of people, and hands would go up all over the room, and people would say, assumption, assuming the wish fulfilled. Yeah, that's important, but that's not the most important word. Persisted in. Yes, you need persistence. Your dominant feeling. Yes, in order to be what you really desire, in order to attain your ideal, you must have the feeling as if that's already here, but that's not the most important word in that sentence. And people would say, it's inevitable. Your ideal is inevitable. Well, yes, all of those are important words. The most important word in that sentence is if. Because if your assumption is persisted in, it does become your dominant feeling. And once you persist and practice this dominant feeling over and over and over again, imagining what it's like to be there, assuming this feeling, practicing it, rehearsing, being it over and over and over, your attainment of your ideal is inevitable. But the only reason the attainment of your ideal is inevitable is if you keep practicing, persisting, allowing it to become your dominant feeling. Most people don't practice it often enough or long enough in order to have the ideal show up in their life, because life gets hard. Other things get in the way. They forget. It doesn't become a habit. So if you want to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and have your future dream become a present fact, you must practice it over and over and over and over. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. You know, in the class that I facilitate, Thinking into Results, I suggest that people watch the video every single day, read the lesson, write out their goal every single day. Bob Proctor would say, write your goal 100 times a day. Sit and ask for guidance for the day. Review the exercises that my clients have received in the lesson and jot down what they have learned. Rethink action steps that they are going to take based on the lesson that we're studying that will move them closer. If you don't write down action steps and take action, the universe doesn't respond. It just keeps responding to your current thoughts, feelings, and actions. So in order to change your reality, you must persist in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, visualize it, imagine it, write about it, think about it, write it out, and then take some different actions. The energy that you put out into the universe reacts to you. It's a universal truth, the law of cause and effect, action, reaction. What you put out comes back to you. So in order to make your future dream a present fact, you have to feel that you're already there, constantly, consistently practicing it, being that. And then, just like magic, it shows up in your physical reality. You are a triune human being. You have a physical body in order to take action. You've been gifted with an intellect, with faculties that no other life form on earth has. You have been gifted with the ability to reason. You've been gifted with an imagination to bring a beautiful picture to the screen of your mind and say, I am that. And to hold that picture with your will, not willpower, but your intellectual faculty of will. Your perception is an important part of your intellect. What you perceive, the way you perceive life, is the way it becomes reality for you. Then you have intuition that you can tap into, and memory, rather than focusing on past memories that don't serve you anymore. Focus your energy on a future memory of what your life is like now that your ideal is your experience. When you rehearse it and practice it, talk about it, feel it so often, when it happens, it just happens. It doesn't arrive with fanfare, it just becomes your life. Just like deja vu, it just, what you've practiced so often in your mind, what you've assumed over and over and over, just shows up naturally. Just like a habit, you do something over and over and over and over. You don't think about it anymore. It just becomes the way you are, your natural being. Neville Goddard says the ideal you hope to achieve is always ready for an incarnation, but unless you yourself offer it human parentage, it is incapable of birth. Therefore, your attitude should be one which, having desired to express a higher state, you alone accept the task of incarnating this new and greater value of yourself. Bob Proctor used to say that so many people have fantastic ideas, but those ideas are stillborn because the person didn't take action, didn't birth the idea. When you have a deep desire for something to show up in your physical reality, to be your life, you must give it human parentage. You give birth to the idea. And you must do whatever is necessary for it to become, nurturing it, loving it, taking care of it no matter what the outside circumstances are. Neville Goddard said, in giving birth to your ideal, you must bear in mind that the methods of mental and spiritual knowledge are entirely different. This is a point that is truly understood by probably not more than one person in a million. You know a thing mentally by looking at it from the outside, by comparing it with other things, by analyzing it and defining it, whereas you can know a thing spiritually only by becoming it. You must be the thing itself and not merely talk about it or look at it. You must be like the moth in search of its idol, the flame, who, spurred with true desire, plunging at once into the sacred fire, folded its wings within, till he became one color and one substance with the flame. He only knew the flame who in it burned, and only he could tell who ne'er to tell returned. Just as the moth in his desire to know the flame was willing to destroy himself, so must you, in becoming a new person, be willing to die to your present self. The old man, the old ways must die in order for you to take on the new life, the new persona. You must be conscious of being healthy if you are to know what health is. You must be conscious of being secure if you are to know what security is. Therefore, to incarnate a new and greater value of yourself, you must assume that you already are what you want to be, and then live by faith in this assumption, which is not yet incarnate in the body of your life, but in confidence that this new value or state of consciousness will become incarnated through your absolute fidelity to the assumption that you are that which you desire to be. That's what wholeness means, what integrity means. They mean submission of the whole self to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, in certainty that this new state of consciousness is the renewing of mind which transforms. There is no order in nature corresponding to this willing submission of the self to the ideal beyond the self. Therefore, it is the height of folly to expect the incarnation of a new and greater concept of self to come about by natural evolutionary process. So in nature, things just evolve naturally. But for you to become your ideal, that's not natural to you based on what people have told you you are. As you grew up, you might have been told that you're shy, or that you don't come from wealth, or that you're a certain gender that shouldn't want what you want. It's not natural, so you have to practice it. You have to internalize it. You have to visualize it. It's outside of your comfort zone. It is beyond your usual practice. Neville Goddard says, that which requires a state of consciousness to produce its effect obviously cannot be affected without such a state of consciousness. And in your ability to assume the feeling of a greater life, to assume a new concept of yourself, you possess what the rest of nature does not possess: imagination, the instrument by which you create your world. Your imagination is the instrument, the means whereby your redemption from slavery, sickness, and poverty is effected. If you refuse to assume the responsibility of the incarnation of a new and higher concept of yourself, then you reject the means, the only means whereby your redemption, that is, the attainment of your ideal, can be effected. Imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. However, your nature is such that it is optional to you whether you remain in your present concept of yourself. He says in brackets, a hungry being longing for freedom, health, and security, or choose to become the instrument of your own redemption, imagining yourself as that which you want to be, and thereby satisfying your hunger and redeeming yourself. Oh, be strong then and brave, pure, patient, and true. The work that is yours, let no other hand do. For the strength of all need is faithfully given from the fountain within you, the kingdom of heaven. Do you believe that the kingdom of heaven is within you? If you have a deep desire to create something, the means by which it is to become physical reality is within you. It's within your power. As you decide what it is that you really would love, you know in your heart what it is. You think about it, you plant the seed, and then you nurture that seed, just like in a garden. First, you have to pull up all the weeds, the negativity, that which you don't want growing in your mind. And then you plant the seed of the picture in your a beautiful imagination. What does it look like? What would it feel like if it was really your life? You know how you want to feel, you know what you desire. And sometimes there's the deep desire is in your heart, but your conscious mind keeps looking for ways to do it, looking for resources outside of you, looking for the plan, the strategy, the steps, something outside of you that has to happen. When you make this a practice to sit quietly, to write out what it is that you desire, to decide on something that's really special to you, that matters to you, that's important to you. It doesn't matter what your friends and family or your or society says. What do you want? Now, sometimes with the reality around you, it feels like it's never going to happen and we give up on it. So it's important to write it out and practice being in that state that you would be in if it was already here. Being grateful. If you already had the deepest desire in your heart, if you were living that way, how would you be feeling? Write about it. Write one sentence on a card or a sticky note and carry that with you and practice touching that card, thinking about it, reminding yourself that's where we're going. That's who we are. Get into the vibrational, energetic state of being that and watch how fast your outside world changes to match. It starts in your own mind. It starts in your own conscious awareness. Assume the wish fulfilled. Use the power of assumption to create your deep desire. Keep practicing it, and it does show up in your reality. Create a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Enjoy your day. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you.